Anyway, in this update, we are going to be talking about the cost of AI, which I talk about every time. Hopefully, all of you know by now I'm not anti-AI. I'm definitely pro technology. I'm pro evolution. I'm pro advancement, but I am an AI realist, as I always say, which means I understand its limitations. I know what it's good for and what it's good at, and I know what it's not good for and not good at. And so I just share my opinions on that so that hopefully you can use it for the right stuff and not use it for the wrong stuff. Nevertheless, quite a bit of what we are told about AI in a variety of directions and circles is just simply misinformation, disinformation. So I try to dispel a little bit of that. Here, it's what you're paying for. We are going to talk about the Road to Housing Act that became law on July 11th of this year, just a few weeks ago. It's a federal housing law Congress passed without approval from the president, and what that means for appraisers, what it might mean for your local economy and real estate industry and things like that. We will be talking about the cost of real estate and what it's doing to your pocketbook. And then, of course, I will give a little bit of my insights into UAD 3.6, where that's all going, and some of the conversations I have had over the last couple weeks with some of you. All right, with that being said, let's jump into the first story. This is about the cost of AI. Now, I've been talking about this for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 market updates, which means 3 or 4 months, maybe more, maybe 6 months. How my suggestion was to be very careful how integrated you allow AI to be into your business. Now, I say that as a user. We have, I want to say 5, maybe 6 paid platforms between OpenAI, Anthropic, Manus, GenSpark, and 1 or 2 others that I've just simply forgotten about that we pay either the $20 or the $100 a month membership to. And I know a lot of you probably have at least one that you pay for. You might be using some of them on the free plan. Nevertheless, what I have been suggesting is to be very careful, because part of, there's a saying. The saying is, if something is free to you, you are the product. Meaning, if you see something offered to you, whether it's online or in a video or whatever, and you go, oh, it's free. Typically, it's not really free. It just means you are going to be part of the product, in that they're going to try to sell something else to you. And so it is the same with AI, in that they offer it for free because they want you to get hooked on it. Even the $20 per month one, which we'll see in this video, is costing the average user, it's costing the AI company thousands, in some case tens of thousands of dollars, to produce, between inference and output, what you're asking it to do. I should say what we're asking it to do, because we use it a lot, and we ask it to do a lot of stuff between coding and just talking to it every day and doing stuff on appraisals and doing stuff in content creation and whatever else. I have no doubt that we are using thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars per month worth of AI compute power for our $20 or $100 a month plan. Now, you can't continue to run a business. If you go to get lunch today and you go to Chipotle or one of those places, and it cost them $65 to make you a burrito bowl, but they only charge you $18, although that's still a lot of money, eventually they'd go out of business. And so it is with the AI, all the AI, the big AI companies. They're being subsidized, both by government money as well as investor money, mostly investor money. Although I'll just put plant the seed, put a pin in it here, that some of them are doing so poorly, and the money is drying up. The investor money, VC, venture capital is drying up. It's to the extent where they are now talking about potential bailouts, or the government owning some portion of, say, OpenAI, which will make it a too big to fail company. So with that being said, just something to keep our eyes on, because they are doing very poorly. I think I said maybe 6-8 months ago that OpenAI would probably be one of the first companies, one of the first AI companies to go out of business. I think I said at the time, OpenAI is the biggest. Everybody's using ChatGPT. However, all the news that I was seeing was that they are really struggling, and we could see in their announcements between, from going from a nonprofit to a for-profit corporation. Everything Sam Altman was telling us was a lie, and that they said they would never do ads. And then all of a sudden he came out and said, we got to put ads in. Now they're showing ads. Then they said, we're not going to allow spicy content. And then now apparently they allow spicy content. I haven't seen any of it, but nevertheless, they're really grasping at straws. In fact, I just saw an interview with Sam Altman where they asked him, how do you plan on making money? And he said, we don't really know. We don't have a plan for how we're going to monetize. We're just going to get to the point where we're going to ask ChatGPT how to make money off this. Now, maybe he was being facetious, but based on where they are now, I don't think he was. So nevertheless, all that being said, it doesn't take a business genius to understand that when you are charging your customers $20 to use something that's costing them hundreds to thousands of dollars every month, that eventually you either have to stop doing that or you go out of business. And so the step before going out of business is changing the cost. And so we've seen it first with Anthropic and some of the others where the big corporate users, they went to token-based pricing. And so it was no longer, hey, for $1,000 a month, you and all your 20 employees can use this. No, it was now we're going to charge you per token. The last I heard, there was a company that spent $500 million in 1 month. It's got to be a multi-billion-dollar company, obviously. But they were paying tens of thousands of dollars a month for their memberships, their plans. And then when they went to token-based pricing, it went to $500 million in 1 month of AI usage. Okay. By the way, OpenAI, only 5% of their users actually pay either the the $20 or the $100 plan or more. 5% of their users. So I don't know how many users they have, millions, it's in the millions, but only 5% actually pay. That means 95% of the people are using it for free. Okay, so with that being the setup, here's just a little bit about as the title says, the $20 subscription is a delusion.
You think your $20 AI subscription is the deal of the century. In reality, it's a trap. A power user on tools like Claude Code actually costs $15,000 a year to run, but you're only paying a fraction of that because venture capitalists are footing the bill. You're living inside the AI Uber moment, a temporary illusion built to get you hooked before the price tags change. But the money is running out. When this trillion-dollar house of cards collapses, the tools you rely on every day will either vanish or cost you 10 times more.
Again, should be noted, I've said this many times before, that it's not just the danger. You might be saying, no big deal. I'm not using AI that much. No, the bigger problem, I've said this a bunch of times, is that the Wall Street, the stock market is being propped up on 7 companies, all of them tech companies. Now, some of those are, Amazon and Meta and things like that. But though all those companies are invested very heavily, Google being one of them, into AI. Now, Google's somewhat safe because they're investing in their own AI, and they don't need to make money off their AI because they have all the other Google suite of products that they make money on, primarily their Google advertising and whatnot. Amazon obviously doesn't need to worry. They're not building their own AI per se, and they are, make billions off of their Amazon Web Services and the Amazon service. But all the others, the only product they have is the AI. And so whether you use it or not, whether it's integrated in your business, whether your business now is dependent on it or not, the stock market is. So if you have a 401k, if you have your retirement account, if you have anything invested in the stock market right now, a vast majority of the stock market highs and gains right now, as well as the lows, are based on those companies.
More. The economics of AI are broken. Chapter 1, the $20 illusion. It all starts with your wallet. A serious Claude Code user runs through roughly 10 billion tokens a year. Tokens are basically the thought units of AI. Every word it reads, every word it writes, every decision it makes relies on a token. If you pay for that usage through a standard API, those 10 billion tokens would cost you around $15,000 a year. That is the real unsubsidized price. No discounts, no incentives, just the raw compute cost. Now that same user on a flat rate max subscription pays around $1,200 for an entire year for the same workload. From $15,000 down to $1,200. A 92% hidden subsidy. Imagine walking into a dealership, picking out a car priced at $15,000 and being told that you only owe $1,200 because someone somewhere else covered the rest. It doesn't make sense, and that's what makes this model so strange.
Keeping in mind the average, 5% of users are paying, probably 95% of those users are the $20 per month. So the average user, me on OpenAI, ChatGPT, I only pay $20 a month. I pay $240 a year. They're actually making the calculation off the $100 per month users, but the vast, vast, vast majority are only paying $240 a year, not $1,200.
But the answer lies in OpenAI's own financial projections, leaked to the information. The company's on track to lose $14 billion in 2026. Not revenue, losses. A $22 monthly subscription covers about 1.7% of what an active power user actually costs to serve. You are not a customer, you are bait. Every prompt typed, every line of code generated, every late night chat session is being paid for by investors, and they are betting that nobody will be able to live without this product when the real bill finally lands. Whole industries are being signed up at a loss. Law firms running document review at 5 cents on the dollar. Marketing agencies are churning out campaigns at prices that would have been impossible 18 months ago. Hospitals trialing diagnostic tools at sticker prices that no model provider could actually sustain at scale. Every single deal is being propped up by patient capital that expects 10 times returns. If companies are losing money on every user they sign up, why are they racing to sign up more? Because we have seen this exact playbook before, and we know how it ends. Chapter 2. The Ghost of Uber. Back in 2014, a black SUV would pull up outside your apartment in 3 minutes. The driver was polite, the car spotless. The trip to the airport cost you $11. You would wonder how any of it added up. It didn't, and that was the point. It was never meant to. For the better part of a decade, an entire generation lived inside what economists later called the millennial lifestyle subsidy. Venture capitalists poured money into ride-sharing, food delivery, co-working spaces, and meal kits on purpose. They set the prices below cost to crush legacy competitors and build a habit. The plan was to take over first and then raise prices until it made a profit. Uber's take rate, the slice of every fare a company keeps, tells the story. In 2022, Uber kept around 32 cents of every dollar a rider paid. By 2024, that figure had climbed to roughly 42 cents. Drivers got a smaller share. Riders paid more. The company eventually posted a profit. Now it's happening in the AI sector. It's the same investors, the same playbook, and the same pricing memo. Industry analysts expect consumer subscription tiers to roughly double in price over the next 2 years. Anthropic has rolled out new rate limits that gently push power users toward higher priced plans. Google is testing premium-only Gemini features that used to be free. A 100% price hike isn't a rumor. It's already penciled in on the calendar. Enterprise contracts are following the same curve. Custom deals signed in 2024 are being quoted much higher in 2026 renewals. It's the same product, it's just costing multiple times the price. Users need to take it or leave it. Ride-sharing only had to do one thing, move a car from point A to point B. The cost of doing that doesn't explode as usage rises. If anything, it gets more efficient. More drivers, more density, better routing. AI works differently. The underlying math of thinking doesn't get cheaper in the same way. It gets complicated fast. AI executives continue to say that compute is getting cheaper every year. The unit economics will work out over time. It's not exactly a lie, it's more like a half-truth. The price of running a query through a model has dropped year over year. Chips are more efficient, models are leaner, each individual word an AI generates is genuinely cheaper to produce than 18 months ago. And that's the part they want people to hear. Here's the part they don't. Chapter 3. The Claude Code Math. Modern agentic workflows, the kind that power Claude Code and ChatGPT's deep research tools, burn through anything from 5 to 30 times more tokens than simple chat sessions of 2 years ago. When you ask a code assistant to fix this bug, it doesn't write 50 words of response. It quietly spawns subtasks, then it rereads your files, it checks its own work, it writes draft after draft, it throws most of them away, and then quietly runs tests in the background. A single user request can chew through hundreds of thousands of tokens before any answer shows up. A model might be slightly cheaper per word than before, but it's also producing far more words per request. The total bill is shooting upward. It's known as the token tax. It bankrupts scrappy AI startups burning through their seed rounds. It's threatening to wipe out one of the most profitable business models in the history of the internet. Chapter 4. The search penalty.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet, which I will probably get into today, depending on time, is the latest news this week that China is eating our lunch. They're actually this video is, I want to say, a month old. Yeah, 1 month ago. Although we've known about this for several months. I've been talking about it on these updates for months. Nevertheless, just came out that Kimi K, DeepSeek, which came out months ago, Chinese model. The information that we were getting was that if it cost OpenAI $6 billion to create the first iterations of ChatGPT, it cost DeepSeek $6 million, a fraction to create a viable competitor. And now we have Kimi K, we have Quen, we have a variety of different Chinese models, which I talked about several months ago, were probably going to be the cause of some of these our American companies going out of business, because that's what China does. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just is what it is. Everything that's in my office right now is probably a Chinese, Korean, or Japanese digital product. The camera and the monitors and the computer and the Apple and the sound and the microphone, all of this stuff. Why? One, because it's good. Two, because it's cheaper than maybe anybody else could do it. In fact, there's very few American companies that actually do this stuff anymore because it was so cheap to get it from China, Korea, and Japan. Well, that's going to happen, of course, with AI as well. And so what we're seeing, so you have to take all the information that's coming through this video in the context of China is now making it worse, because a lot of companies are jumping from Anthropic and OpenAI to Kimi K and all these Chinese models, which likely the next step is the federal government will start to ban, like they have with the Oppo phones and the Chinese phones and Chinese cars and things like that. They will do their best to make it illegal to use any of those models.
25 years, Google's printed money, and it's been brutally simple. A user types in a query, Google returns 10 blue links pulled from the open web. The total cost to Google, servers, electricity, indexing, is a fraction of a cent per search. And yet, the ads next to those results generate much more than that. Margin is one of those great financial miracles of modern times. Now Google is rebuilding that entire system on top of generative AI. A single AI-powered search response, the kind that writes a paragraph-long answer instead of just showing you some links, costs significantly more to produce than a traditional keyword search. Now multiply that across billions of queries a day. If Google fully replaces traditional search with AI overviews, the most reliable profit machine of the 21st century vanishes. The margins that have funded YouTube, Android, Waymo, and Gmail begin to dry up. Wall Street analysts have quietly mapped out the worst case scenarios, and the numbers are catastrophic. And it gets worse. The advertising models become redundant too. When AI just gives you an answer, nobody clicks on the links, so advertisers will stop paying. Google is staring at a future where it serves up more queries than ever before, costs more to run than ever before, and earns less revenue per query than at any point in its modern history. Tech giants are willingly cannibalizing their most profitable businesses on purpose. They've decided the only thing more dangerous than killing a cash cow is letting a competitor kill it first. Business school has a name for this: the innovator's dilemma. When a new technology threatens the core business, incumbents face two choices: sit still and defend the existing cash engine while a competitor builds the future, or cannibalize it themselves on their own terms, hoping that they can build revenue on the next platform before the old one erodes. That's the path companies like Google, Microsoft, and Meta are effectively betting on with AI. They're betting that AI will eventually replace the current moneymakers. Nobody can prove that's true. Everybody is in too deep to back out. If unit economics are this bad, how are these same companies posting record AI revenues on Wall Street every single quarter? Chapter 5, the round trip scam. That's where things get clever. Microsoft commits very publicly to investing $13 billion into OpenAI. The press release is slick, the headlines.
I've already talked about this. I've showed you the graph showing the open or the circular financing where NVIDIA and I forgot the other big one, but where they loan 300 billion to this company, who then loans 200 billion of it to this company. It basically just comes back. So that's the circular financing piece. And let's talk about the hardware a little bit.
Push that figure toward 500 billion. Data centers, GPUs, cooling systems, power delivery, entire grids are being reinforced to handle it. Meanwhile,
64% of AI data center projects have been canceled.
While total global consumer spending on AI services is only about $12 billion, according to Menlo Ventures' State of Consumer AI report. Hundreds of billions are flowing out while only $12 billion is going in. The gap is the size of an entire mid-sized country's economy. It's being filled not with revenue, but debt, corporate bonds, structured credit, and private lending. Meta alone raised $30 billion in bond markets in late 2025. There was another roughly $30 billion through a Morgan Stanley arranged joint venture set up to keep liabilities off of Meta's public balance sheet. Microsoft has signed a 20-year power purchase agreement to restart 3 Mile Island. Google has partnered with NextEra Energy to reopen nuclear power plants. These promises don't go away if AI revenue underperforms, but the hardware itself doesn't last. A high-end NVIDIA GPU that powers most of this boom has a short life of just 1 to 3 years before the next generation makes them outdated. It loses most of its book 2026 mass extinction. Roughly 40% of AI startups launched in 2024 have already been shut down or acqui-hired by bigger players, according to CB Insights data. That is the polite term for a fire sale where a struggling company is sold for cents on a dollar to a rival. The buyer isn't really buying a business, they're getting the engineers, shutting down the product and absorbing whatever talent they can absorb. These weren't hobby projects in someone's garage. These were companies that closed Series A rounds with serious investors. They had revenue, they had paying customers, they had glowing TechCrunch profiles. Then within 18 months, the lights went off. The reason is almost always the same. AI rug pull. Venture capital firms are no longer willing to cover losses in the hope of future glory. They want to see a path to profit in writing with quarterly milestones, and they want to see it now. For foundation model companies, that means one of two things. The first is a brutal sudden repricing. The $20 consumer plan becomes a $100 plan, or it quietly disappears and is replaced by a pro tier that costs 10 times more for the same features. A Claude Code user who paid $1,200 a year suddenly faces an invoice closer to $15,000 that an API actually costs. A freelance designer who relies on a $10 image generation subscription gets an email explaining that their plan is being moved over to a new structure. Small businesses that built workflows on cheap AI face a choice: pay 10 times more or go back to doing it the old way. The second option is worse. The services simply get shut down. We've already seen the first signs. Smaller AI companies have folded with 30 days notice, leaving customers scrambling to move years of work to whatever competitor is still standing. Specialized models for legal research, medical imaging, and customer support have been pulled because their economics never worked. An era of cheap AI ends with 1,000 small invoices, 1,000 small shutdown notices. A deeper truth is uglier than a price hike. AI in 2026 is on track to become a luxury, not a basic product. The cheap version's trained an entire generation to need it. An expensive version is the only one that balance sheets now allow to exist. Big companies that can afford a new pricing tier will lock in their advantage. Freelancers, the small businesses, and the people who powered early adoption, the ones who created the buzz, will be priced out first. An economy built on the idea of cheap intelligence is about to slam into the reality of expensive intelligence. Productivity assumptions made in 2024 will not survive in 2027. A promised AI revolution will arrive, just not for everyone, and not at the price they were sold. History says crashes don't take a year to play out. The dot-com bust took 2 years from peak to trough. The AI bubble has more leverage, more concentration, and more debt baked into its foundations. When it tips, it can move in months, maybe weeks. When the margins shrink, when the first big enterprise customer publicly walks away from a renewal, that confidence can vanish overnight. The tools millions rely on every day were never as cheap as anyone thought. They were being held up by investor money that is finally starting to dry up. An AI age might still be coming. A cheap AI age, one that fooled an entire generation into rebuilding their working lives on top of it, is already over.
Okay, so with that being said, like the dot-com bubble and burst, dot-coms didn't go away. We're using the internet every day. So it's not like when the AI bubble bursts, AI goes away. Again, the way it's being used now, we're at the very beginning stages of this. Even though AI has been around for decades, I mean, literally decades, since the 50s, versions of AI. We're at the infancy of all of this, and so these models are going to change. What I do see happening is, if you really get into using it, what you are going to do is you are going to do local models are going to become the thing. So like, people, when the whole OpenClaw thing came out and people were rushing out to buy Mac minis, so that they could run their own models essentially on it. Yes, they were connected via API keys to open source models and things like that. But if you have your own AI, so to speak, like I have this MacBook, I don't use anymore. I could essentially build a little AI model that we could run our office off of, that I would essentially not have to pay anything for or much for if it only connected, say, to do updates or certain things to Anthropic or whatever. But that's probably what will happen, just like uh, small computing and cell phones and things like that. Eventually, everybody will have their own little AI server, and they won't necessarily, they will figure out ways around having to pay for it. That's what I see happening, is everybody having their, if you really get into using it, everybody will have their own little model somehow built, and you will use it for specialty type things like appraisal. You'll have your own little appraisal model built on your Mac mini or on your extra laptop running in the background, or your server or whatever, and it won't necessarily be using tokens via ChatGPT and Anthropic and GenSpark. It will not need to access the internet. It'll only access your local intranet or something like that.